Hello, everybody. My name is Xavier Thuillard, and I want to welcome you to episode 1 of Music Theory for Electronic Music Producers. In this series, we will discuss practical applications of music theory. I will take you through the steps of creating a small new piece of music, and hopefully, by the end of the series, you will have learned some useful tips and tricks to help you write better music. In this episode, we will be looking at rhythm. For demonstration, I am working in FL Studio, but any other digital audio workstation would also do. I've already loaded some sounds into FL, which we can now edit in the piano roll. First, I want to draw your attention to the bold gray lines in the piano roll. These gray lines show where the beat is. In music, the beat refers to the underlying pulse that you can almost always feel in music. It's where you would clap your hands or tap your feet when listening to a piece of music. You can also see a darker gray line, which represents a measure or a bar. In music, rhythmic patterns tend to repeat, and these repetitions are usually captured by a measure. By default, FL Studio packs 4 beats into each measure. This is a very common rhythmic structure that we call 4/4 or common time, and it's what most popular music that you hear actually uses. So, based on this idea of packing 4 beats into a measure, let's start programming some simple drum patterns that you've most likely already heard in music. For example, a very simple drum pattern is to have a kick followed by a hat. Where's the hat in here? Right here. Followed by a snare and another hat. Let's put it on a closed hat actually. And this sounds something like this. So right now, as you can see below, all our sounds are played equally loudly. This is not what you would usually do in music. Typically in music, you'd have the first beat be the loudest, followed by the third, and then the second and fourth beat. So let's change that. And this sounds like this. So this is a stereotypical rock beat that you've most likely already heard. It's, for example, the drum pattern which was used in Queen's Another One Bites the Dust, although probably a bit faster than that. Somewhere around here, probably. So this is a bit boring, so we might want to spice up this simple drum pattern. For example, what we can do is to start putting in offbeat notes. So for example, what we could do is to add one note between every beat. Usually an offbeat note is going to be less loud than an onbeat note. So let's reduce the volume of each offbeat note. And we get a drum pattern which sounds something like this. So, for example, this was the drum rhythm which was used for Michael Jackson's Billie Jeans. You could also emphasize an offbeat note. In music theory, we refer to this as syncopation. For example, by emphasizing an offbeat note, we could get a Latin sounding rhythm like this by having an offbeat emphasis on a snare like this. So let's increase the loudness here. And we get something like this. This has to be faster. Right? A typical Latin rhythm, which we get by emphasizing an offbeat. So, what else can we do? We could miss the fourth beat and have two kicks followed by a clap. I don't think I actually have a clap on here, so let's just have it be a snare. And if we have this, this is the rhythmic pattern in We Will Rock You by Queen. So that's one thing we could do. We could also add a bit of delay on each offbeat note. So let's go back to our Billie Jean's rhythm, which was this one. And this is a bit quieter. This is all a bit quieter. Like this. And now we take every offbeat note and we slightly delay it. So let's delay it a bit. And we get something which is swung, which sounds more like this. So the point I'm trying to make is that even though most music is written in 4/4, which is the rhythmic structure we have right here, there's actually a lot of different variation that you can have using this simple rhythmic structure of 4/4. However, maybe you want to be different, you want to do different things in your music, so you want to go outside of the confines of 4/4 or common time. So if you want to do that, it's helpful to start by thinking about what 4/4 actually means. So when we talk about the rhythmic structure of a song, we usually represent it using a fraction, such as 4/4 or 3/4. In the fraction, the numerator refers to the number of beats in a measure. So for example, here we have 4 beats in a measure, and the denominator captures the length of each beat. For example, in 4/4, the 4 in the denominator means that each beat is a quarter note long. If instead the time signature was 4/8, each beat would be an eighth note long. An eighth note is twice as fast as a quarter note. Therefore, a composer might use 4/8 as a time signature instead of 4/4 if they want to indicate to the musicians that the music should be played faster. So now that we understand rhythmic structures a bit better, let's change our rhythmic structure, or what we would call time signature in music theory. To do this, we need to go into our project general settings in FL Studio, and we can change the numerator and denominator. There are many different types of time signatures out there, but another typical time signature you might use if you're not in 4/4 is 6/8. So that means that we have 6 beats which are each an eighth note long. And as you can see, our grid has been adjusted. We now have 6 beats in each measure. So 6/8 is a typical rhythmic structure which is commonly used in rock ballads such as We Are the Champions by Queen or House of the Rising Sun by the Animals. For example, if we wanted to get the drum pattern from House of the Rising Sun by the Animals, we can do that simply by having, oh, excuse me, that was wrong, by having a hi-hat on each beat. We have a kick drum on the first beat and the snare on the third. And there's also an offbeat hi-hat right around here. So let's change the dynamics a bit. Like this. And we get the rhythm from House of the Rising Sun by the Animals. And this is a bit too slow, so let's speed it up. So this can be interesting to do, but for demonstration purposes, I will try to keep things rather simple to start off. So let's go back to 4/4. And as a rhythm, I'm gonna use this idea of having a delayed offbeat note. So something like this. And let's change our dynamics. Maybe more like this, this. And this is way too fast, so let's slow it down a bit. So that will be our basic drum pattern for our song. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is that when people think about rhythm, they often think about drums, and drums certainly are one of the main ways to convey rhythm in music, but you can actually also convey rhythm using other instruments. So let me show you an example of that. Let's add bass, which just follows exactly the same rhythmic structure. And this sounded like it was too low, so let's put it up. So obviously this is a very simple bass line. We will complicate it further when we get to our next episode where we talk about melody. But the point I'm trying to make is that you can have instruments beside your drums that also convey some rhythm in your music. So that's what I got for you today. I hoped you enjoyed the first episode of Music Theory for Electronic Music Producers on Rhythm. If you liked this episode, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on the next episode. In the next episode, we will be going over melody. Thanks for watching and take care.